Hey everybody, welcome into week 13 of the NFL season. It's week 13. We are approaching the final full month of the regular season. I couldn't write full in a little bit under because it wasn't big enough. Michael McQuaid, Mark Hogan, Jason Hayes, obviously Pro Football Ireland's podcast are presented by our partners over at SBKD Sportsbook to work with folks. No casino, no roulette, just pure sportsbook. And this weekend, there are a number of different offers. There's a bet bonus on Sunday. And do check out the link in the bio. It makes a massive difference to us. 18 plus. Please be gamble aware. You will have seen Jeff's picks on Thanksgiving. And today, this weekend, we are here on the car radio, on your podcast after Thanksgiving. So if you're watching this live right now, we're not going to talk about Thanksgiving or Black Friday. And we're going to talk about the football. Mark Hogan, take it home while I let everybody know that we're live right now. Go for it, sir.
Yeah, the delicate balancing act of the Thanksgiving podcast. If you are live, say hello. If it's Friday, set the late to pre-record because the Eagles-Bears on at 8 o'clock is class. And if it's the weekend, I mean, where have you been? But don't worry, we're only looking ahead to the weekend's games, as Michael said. Here, Jason, I'm going to bring you in. We're not going to talk about favorite food because of the whole Thanksgiving buy-in. We've done that in other years. Instead, since it's December on Monday, I'm going to ask you, am I too old for an advent calendar?
Never, Mark, never. What kind of advent calendar is a better
Here,
question?
went into Tesco there. €15 dead to $7.50, which are
€15.
15 dead to $7.50, which are club car part. A top
It's gotta be Lindor or something.
Toblerone. My absolute Achilles heel is Toblerone.
I made my wife buy me an advent calendar last week, and if anybody can guess it, they'll win a free pint from me. Jason, do you want to guess what it is?
Toblerone.
Toblerones are so overrated. Kinder Bueno.
No,
yeah.
Kinder Bueno.
Oh, here,
Kinder Bueno's
look.
peak
Here,
chocolate.
do you know what, Jason? This is going to be a deep cut for Cardinals fans. Darren Urban, maybe 6 years ago, tweeted out that for some reason there was a graphic saying that Arizona, their favorite chocolate of Arizona was Toblerone, and all the beat writers, Kyle Odegaard, Darren Urban, a few others at the time, all kind of got on this Twitter thread saying that Toblerone was like a shy chocolate. I'm not going to say I was going to unfollow the Arizona Cardinals, but it was an absolute dagger in the heart to see all these people that I loved listening to did not like my beloved Toblerone.
First off, is Kyle related to Martin? And secondly, it's Toblerone. You're calling the Toblerone. It's Toblerone.
Here, I get enough grief on Today FM for mispronouncing things, and I've learned the one thick skin that I have is when it comes to pronunciations of names, except for Budavant in Cork. As Jason well knows, I once called Budavant Budavant, and that one will always sting. But other than that, Michael, pronunciations, have at it, I don't care.
Thanks to everybody that came out on Thursday night, of course, if you're listening back to our Thanksgiving event. We say literally rocked up to a pub to watch some games, had a bit of crack. Next big event, Neil Reynolds is coming with me to Tyrone, to Galway, and to Kerry in January. I'm saying this blatantly because I know if you're in your car on a Friday, people are getting paid this weekend. linktr.ee/PF Ireland. Galway's half gone. It will go. The other ones are, Tyrone's quite small. Kerry's the big one. We'd love to see you there. If more and more people go, we will get bigger guests as well that week. But really appreciate everybody's support. And before we start, just a big thanks to everybody that's listening to us over the last few weeks. It has been a bit manic in terms of being in different countries, going to different games, getting the violin out. But it's good that we now have a sort of a free run here. We are live every week, or we will have podcasts over Christmas, is what I'm trying to say, about getting Mark and Jason in the deep end here. We are going to make it work somehow from now until the Super Bowl. So we will see what happens. Mark, we start off this week with a really, really big game on Sunday night between two teams that are coming off losses. The Steelers-Bills game. And for people that are aware, this game's on Sky Sports, and I'm going to give a big shout out to all my homies in Antrim, Tyrone, Armagh, Fermanagh, Derry, and Down, and probably most of Monaghan, Cavan, and Donegal, who can watch this game for free on 5 Action on Sunday night. So I'm not on 5 Action. I haven't been asked to be on Channel 5 yet, but I'm sure that day will come, Mark.
Yeah, stay tuned for a segment later on where it might become relevant. So not you specifically, but that TV show, perhaps. No, look, the Bills Steelers obviously big again. Without wanting to timestamp this, does Aaron Rodgers play, or is it going to be Mason Rudolph again? I don't think we're in worry, or we have to worry about that, because I don't expect it'll be known until over the weekend. But a loss does put the Steelers 2 games back in the playoff race. They're just outside it right now, but it also would give the Bills the tiebreak, which would be huge. So is it a playoff elimination game? I mean, let's not go completely into that, because it is difficult to see, I suppose, and predict what happens to Baltimore Ravens, having watched the first half of them against the Jets the other day. But it does kind of show a level of desperation of them wanting to start Rodgers. And before kind of going into the game a bit more, though, Michael or Jason, I will ask, if they are desperate enough to play Rodgers in this as he recovers from a slight fracture in his wrist, what does that say about if he aggravates it and they have to play Mason Rudolph for the rest of the season?
Well, I'll just jump in two different elements of this. So first off, Mason Rudolph was already a game time decision last week, but if anybody actually looks and watches Mike Tomlin's interview with CBS, he made it quite evident that they knew for days that Rudolph was going to start that game. It's
contrary,
it's interesting.
Michael, there's some reports there, and it's like you're the team insider here, but there is some reports that apparently Mason Rudolph didn't know until the morning of, and that it's Mike Tomlin is putting it out there. So it is like, Mike Tomlin saying that it happened doesn't mean it necessarily did. And there seems to be a bit more. And that could just be Aaron Rodgers behind the scenes really wanted to play. And maybe it is him. But again, I suppose that's why I asked the question, were he to aggravate that injury and they're stuck with Mason? Now, I'm not saying that I'm one side or the other, and I'll probably expand on that in a second. But I suppose if the team is so hell-bent on being with Rodgers, it can get worse.
It can get worse. I find it interesting in the way that Tom looked at the reporter and the way that he explained it. I'm going to have a lot of clarity here. I think it was definitely known before the morning of the game, and at the time, and we're not even timestamping this, at the time of recording, there is quote unquote optimism that Rodgers plays. I think there are, like, we can certainly preview this game if either quarterback plays. But you're talking about Team Insider. I spoke to a guy on a podcast last week for the Steelers, and I actually asked him before the game against the Bears, did he want to see Rodgers start? And he genuinely, this is a guy, Mike Pursuta, has worked in Pittsburgh for 35 years, said, no, give him the week off. They've got the Ravens twice, the Lions, and somebody else, the Dolphins on Monday Night Football to finish off the year. And the team were going in 6-4 with Mason Rudolph. They need all the help they're going to get over the next few weeks, and I'm sure we'll talk about this now. Who has the Steelers offense? Jump on this.
It's kind of a bit of both for me. I should have actually nominated in our group chat that it was me, but you said there we could preview it with either quarterback, because at the end of the day, the matchup kind of doesn't suit the Bills because they cannot stop the run to save their life. They're the second worst in the NFL third worst in total yards, but second worst in yards per attempts given up when it's running. I mean, Woody Marks a couple of weeks ago looked like LaDainian Tomlinson, but I kind of wonder if it's going to be a big game for Kenny G, our friend Kenneth Gainwell. Funnily enough, he had his best performance. Now, granted, 55 of his 92 yards over the weekend came on a single play, but he had his best game since Dublin the other day, and I kind of think that the same offense that we saw in Dublin for the Steelers could be what we're about to see this week, that it's going to be very run heavy and kind of, expanding off that. Like we know it's a super shallow offense from the Steelers, but in this game in particular, when they're able to rely on the run game and kind of hammer it down the throat of the Bills. I know, Jason, you've obviously been a fan of Darnell Washington, the tight end. He's becoming such a big name now because people are seeing him a little bit more because he has some highlight plays. I think he's kind of at a crucial point right now. He's the big man tight end for anyone that hasn't seen him. But I feel like his blocking needs to improve, because certainly there's highlights there last week when he steamrolls guys when he's blocking. But he gave up 2 sacks against Montez Sweat. And whether Rodgers is back there and he needs protection, or it's this Bills pass rush, the illusion of him being a pass catcher is probably based off him being a good blocker first and foremost in the run game, and then being able to take off in the passing game. It's funny enough, it's really game plan focused, because I was kind of looking at his targets. 4 games he's had 5 or more, and 5 games he's without a target at all. This is one of those games that you're imagining that they're playing the run an awful lot more, and then he's able to break off into it. I think it's just important as he goes on that he becomes more consistent in protecting the quarterback if someone is injured there, and, setting himself up that he can be that big play guy.
And I think Broderick Jones is on the injury report. I think it's a neck, so he might be out this week. So I know that Steelers' offensive line has had their struggles as the weeks have gone by. So it is important that those tight ends, especially when there's 2-3 tight end sets on the field so frequently for that Steelers offense, they need to pull their weight in pass protection. Can't just be the flashy pass catching plays out of that position. On the other side of the ball, interesting to hear that the Steelers have to exploit the Bills' run defense, because I think it's the exact opposite on the other side of the ball when looking at this Bills' offense. It's been a sketchy run of form of late. Obviously, a couple of surprise losses over the last 3 weeks to the Dolphins and the Texans, 2 games they would have fancied themselves going into. And then in between, you have Josh Allen scoring 6 touchdowns in a massive offensive showing against the Buccaneers. So it really has been up and down by the Bills of late, and just a weird spell in general when you look at kind of the teams or what's happening on that roster. Keon Coleman can't see the field. 2 weeks in a row now, he's been a healthy scratch, although Sean McDermott's answer has been a bit vague in terms of why he's not starting, saying he's day-to-day, despite the fact that he doesn't have an injury. So, God knows what's going on behind the scenes there. I thought the Houston game was really interesting last Thursday, because every time we've talked about the Bills this year, I've been saying stick to their new identity, which is run first with Cook, and then they have success. Well, against Houston, that's exactly what they did, and James Cook had 116 yards, 6.8 per carry, a lot of success on the ground, yet the offense still couldn't get it done. So it just goes to show that that's kind of the up and down nature of this roster this year, that even when they are running the ball strongly, Josh Allen hasn't been able to have the success we've become so accustomed to seeing. I think it is a good matchup this week against the Steelers. The team that struggled against the pass, 31st against the pass, I think. Bills are clearly trying to make rooms to get right with Brandon Cooks, 12, 13-year veteran coming in to help them with the wide receiver room. It's just critical this week for the Bills that they keep Josh Allen upright. He was absolutely destroyed against the Texans, 8 sacks. Of course, they've got the likes of Hayward and TJ Watt coming up against him this week in Pittsburgh. But Allen has been letting that pressure get to him, which he hasn't been doing over the last couple of years. He's prone to a few interceptions lately. 2 against the Texans. We saw a few sloppy mistakes against the Dolphins. And every single Bills loss has come in games where they've had multiple turnovers. So it's just crucial. It sounds obvious, but it's crucial they keep Josh Allen clean. I think they're going to try utilize some quick passing game to make that happen. Steelers aren't great against yards after the catch. So look for the Bills to get Khalil Shakir more involved running after the catch. We'll see what kind of role Cooks might have in his first week back, but it is, I think, just the perfect get-right game for Josh Allen. I know, Mick, you're going to speak a bit about the Steelers' defense now, but that pass defense has problems right now, don't they?
I think generally the entire team has had a lot of problems, and I think it's important to maybe own up and just admit that. You think of where this team was coming in and going through pre-clearance when they were leaving Dublin again after week 4, nearly 10 weeks on. They're now sitting 6-5. They no longer have control of the AFC North, and really the story for them this year, and I think the real storyline that we need to start at least looking at here, depending on how Sunday goes, and we'll talk about the defense in a wee second here, is what is the future of this team? They have never had a losing season. Tomlin finds a way to get to the playoffs, and then it gets debatable about their performance in that. But it does look like, for the first time in a long time, in our generation of supporting the NFL, that the Steelers are genuinely in with a shout in being sort of being in trouble in terms of where it's at and where it can go this season. The Steelers' defense is probably the weakest it's been in a very, very long time now. I believe they have the players. I believe they have the output there in terms of what they're able to do, but they're not getting the job done. And that's a massive, massive factor for this team. Theoretically, they've got the people on the field to actually be a successful team on both sides of the ball. But there have been different games this year where they look like elite talent. For example, the game against the Colts, or the time they beat the Patriots. But then you look at what they done against the Bears last week, and there was a moment of brilliance from the defense from Black, TJ Watt, whenever TJ Watt broke the record in terms of JJ. And then it just went to, Mark said shite. We don't really use the word shite on broadcast up north. I don't think we're allowed to, actually, but you are. So we'll just say that and get away with it.
You're so delicate.
Excuse me. Right. Didn't mean to laugh and burp there. Steelers put up 30. The Steelers let in 31 points against the Bears. Now, we know how good the Bears are on both sides of the ball. We know realistically their defense is a very, very solid unit, but they're still giving up 31 points, which means for the 5th time this year, they have allowed 30 or more points. That ties the most that Tomlin has allowed in his career as a head coach of the Steelers, and there are still a number of weeks left in the season. There are still 6 games left in the schedule, so there is a very interesting opportunity for the Steelers to get to maybe 6, 7, or even 8 games in terms of that there. Since the NFL merged between the AFL and the NFL, the Steelers have only allowed 6 games in a season twice in terms of losses, 1988 and 2002. They're getting very, very close to that. But I think the biggest issue for the Steelers this weekend is they are going up against the Buffalo Bills team that are lethal offensively. Like we've heard about, like we've heard about just in the previous conversation. We know how good they can be. We know that we expect the Bills to potentially go out and put anywhere from 24 to 45 points up on the board at Acrisure on Sunday, and the home fans are going to have to get behind this defense on the field. You look at where they're coming here, and you sort of see guys. I think Dan Orlovsky was talking this week on both Pat McAfee and also on different programming for the Bills. He was talking about how he doesn't think the Steelers defense is good enough to slow down the offense, and I have to say I agree, because no matter if you get the ball down the field or if you hand it off to Cook, or if frankly in what Josh Allen has been able to do so well this season, just run the ball himself, they know what to do and they can find ways of exploiting the defense. And I really think the Steelers defense is in, honestly, a lot of trouble here. And it's something that I mentioned on the quote-unquote insert advertisement board here at Irish Steelers Podcast this week. I really feel like it's going to be on the Steelers offense to win this game for them. I think the defense could be in a bit of trouble. There are definitely situations here where you look at how good the Bills are and you look at how this defense played against the Bears. There was a situation last week where the Bears threw the ball 5 straight times and completed every pass for at least 14 yards or more. That cannot happen in the NFL. That cannot be happening in the NFL in week 13 or week 14 going forward, where you're trying to make a run, especially in a very, very tight-knit now AFC North. There's at least 2 players out. I had them written down. They've lost them this week. But when you're going up against James Cook, he's got over 1,000 yards. He's an average 5.4 per attempt. You need to look at the leaders in your locker room. It is going to be on guys like TJ, on an aging Cam Hayward to find ways to make this work. The only thing I really feel like they have going for them this week, defensively and offensively, is the fact they're playing at home. And if they can't get this together this week, I would be concerned that the season is on the verge of falling apart, because I do not see them winning 2 games against the Ravens and the game on the road, remember, in Detroit against the Lions. The week before that, they have a game against the Dolphins. That game could be flexed out. It might not be flexed out. There's a lot going on, and certainly people are starting to talk more in Pennsylvania. Hell, we're talking here about it.
Well put, Mick. And I think if there's one bright spot, because that was probably a bit depressing to listen to for some Steelers fans, they are second in the league in takeaways. A lot of that comes from, strip sacks. And as flawed as that secondary has been, they can make some big plays. So Josh Allen has had a few sloppy games. Can they force a few turnovers? I think that's their only route to success here.
That's the question. Who do we think is going to win this weekend in this game?
I'm going to say Bills siding with you.
I think the Steelers are going to edge out a victory. I'll get my little flag out and start waving it. I just feel like the home crowd will get them over, but I think it'll be the most typical Steelers win, where it's edgy, it's close, and they just about get going. But that's under the presumption that Aaron Rodgers plays, and I will be concerned at that Bills defense going up against them. So we will see. It is Thanksgiving, which means there are no teams on a bye this week, and next week is the final opportunity for teams to be on a bye. A team actually included on that bye for week 14 is the New England Patriots. A hell of a bye, 10-2, going into week 13, and they have a bye week coming up. That is unbelievable. It is Thanksgiving this week, and it has been Thanksgiving over the last few days, of course, as well. And Mark, we are going to talk about one thing that we are thankful for this season so far. Would you like to start us off? What a great topic given by me.
Thanks for the input. No, you say one. I kind of did 1.5, to be honest, because I was I was predicting that potentially one of you might cover mine. So what I'll do is I'll give you one, and then if you haven't wrapped back, then I can actually use my actual one. So my backup, if you want to call it that, was actually giving thanks for Will Gavin. I will expand on that. I wanted to see your face for a second first, but
we don't have that written down, so they go for it, my friend. Yeah, maybe be light on this, but yeah.
No. Look, he's been obviously very good to us, but I suppose he's been extremely talented for years. But if you're a US audience, you've only noticed some right now. The viral commentary after viral commentary, it started at the Super Bowl and has rolled right through the European games. I think. Look, I'm delighted for Will specifically, but then when you look at it in a broader sense, it actually kind of reminds me of the reaction that we have as Irish fans, us as Irish fans, the reaction to us. It started off with Neil Reynolds in Dublin. It's now been taken by Fitz over to Thursday Night Football broadcasts when he's shouting out how the Irish fans have been. And I think it's kind of, it's just reflective of how they've reacted to Will and realizing that people are so passionate over this side of the Atlantic. So in a broader sense, I think it's nice that we can kind of all bask in, we're being seen over here for a second. But specifically, Will's talents have been an absolute highlight. Funnily enough, I had actually asked, could we get Will's commentary from the opening of the Dublin game? Because this was before he had his multiple runs.
Did you hear what happened in that game?
No.
Did you hear? So he called me up, and it was Greg, him, and Simon Clancy, and I went up for 2 or 3 minutes. I think I was busy, obviously a busy day, and I wasn't nervous. It was fine. I was enjoying myself. I was like looking at Croke Park going, isn't this great? And I went, put the headset on. Right, lads, Neil, great to be here. And I genuinely meant to say Will, and Neil just came out. And so I would love to get the video from that. It's probably on YouTube. But not my finest.
Oh, I didn't even think, because if they put up their full broadcast on YouTube, well, I had asked Will Varney, one of the producers who we're all fond of, I'd asked him for the commentary for Will's opening, which he actually sent me on the wrong clip, and I never went back to Varney and was like, here, actually, could I get the other bit? Just of his cold open, we're here in Croke Park. He actually gave me we're about to kick off now. I think that his commentary for Dublin would have gone equally as viral just because of how passionate he is. He obviously has the Irish roots. So a weird little flex now that I'm after going towards Will Gavin, but thankful for his year.
And what I will say about Will very quickly is been great cracking over the last few years. Really enjoyed the TalkSport lads, especially if you can get it on your car radio up north. Would highly recommend their coverage, especially at the weekends if you're not at home watching the games. Will done a great job on Channel 5 at the weekend again, if you're able to watch that. And he's not going to see this or hear this until it happens. I'm led to believe he's on the main broadcast on Sunday. So congratulations to him. I hope they throw a load of footballs at him and put him in the big Super Bowl. Have we all watched that yet? No, Jason, I mean, you're too far south, but have you seen that Channel 5 show at game night thing?
I've seen clips from it. Yeah, I've seen mainly through social media. But I saw a few clips of Will last week, and it seemed to be insightful and nice kind of banter-filled show is the vibe. Have you watched it, Mick?
I find that, and this is me, I'm not being negative at all. So Osi Umenyiora and Sam Quek are literally doing a game show for 3.5 hours with Dermot O'Leary on Channel 5. And they literally walk off and go straight into a studio. And by the third quarter in the late game, you can tell they're delirious. They're wrecked. You can genuinely see it. Osi Umenyiora started putting the cowboy hat on, going yeehaw, and all the other night whenever they come back. I'm watching it because it's free, and I'm currently in between houses, and I get to watch something live. But to their credit, they're getting some of the big games. They got the Bills Steelers this week. They had the Chiefs against the Bills 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. They had the Cowboys Eagles, and I believe they had a game as well on Thanksgiving night. So they are getting the games, and I would stress that if you can't get Channel 5 in the Republic, and if the NFL are somehow listening to this, they should maybe find a way of doing that in the Republic, because they're called the NFL UK and Ireland, and I think that's a very, very fair statement to make. Before we get in trouble, Jason, do you want to tell us what you're thankful for?
Yes, I'm thankful for golden oldies in sports in general. But in the
this is
NFL,
where you're meant to say I'm thankful for all of you guys, but go for it. Golden oldies, golden oldies.
Golden oldies. Whether it's looking at what Messi is doing in the MLS now, like 70 goals and assists or something. Always been a big Tiger Woods guy, watching his Masters victory at his age was amazing. Peyton Manning riding off into the sunset with a Super Bowl win. No matter what sport I watch, I always root for the guy they've done it all and they're still hanging around and they're giving it one last shot. Bit of a segue, but I remember coming home from a night out years ago. It was like 4 a.m. and the Winter Olympics was on, and they're doing the snowboarding challenge. And the commentators are really hyping up this guy, Shaun White. I had no idea who he was, but it turned out he was like a veteran of the game, and he'd won it all, and this was his last big go at the Olympics. I ended up staying up for about 4 hours watching Shaun Wright. I can't remember his name now.
White, he has a video game named after him. He's like the Tony Hawk of snow sports.
Is it Shaun White, is it?
White, yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. He has a literal video game after him.
I have no idea I'm just sitting here enjoying this. I actually think the Winter Olympics are a complete con, but that's a discussion for a different podcast. But go on ahead.
Oh, I love them.
My point is, I just, no matter what sport I'm watching, I love rooting for the guy who's, he's showing all the young up and coming talent how it's done and proving himself one more time. This season, bringing it back to the NFL, that guy for me is Matthew Stafford. What he's doing at 37. Been with the Rams for 5 years now. When he was first signed with them, it was, all in move, try to get that Super Bowl with an aging Stafford. And they did it. They achieved that glory. Yet here we are again, a few years later, rosters turned over quite a bit, and Stafford's still looking as good as ever. He's on track to be the MVP right now. He's just playing flawless football with Davante Adams, another golden oldie to his side, playing himself into the Hall of Fame as well. But I think last week Stafford dragged his career record back to 500, or maybe he just exceeded 500. But like that deficit that he built up in Detroit was obviously significant. I love seeing a guy like Stafford still out there playing at his age and showing all the young guys how it's done. When you're seeing Allen and Mahomes have some of their struggles this year, it's fun to see the old guy doing well. So that's what I'm thankful for.
Mark, you had a second thankful thing. If you want to say it before I say mine very quickly.
All right, mine's parity. Is that yours not parity, Michael? All right,
no, mine is. I'm telling you now, mine is not party. So I'm just glad you didn't say Virgin Media or something. Yeah, go for it.
All right, here. Well, so our friend Gary put into the group chat about double-digit sacks last week and saying there's some awful outfits. I think I agree to a lesser extent. I know I disagree to a lesser extent than other years. Look, the Seahawks made easy work of the Titans in the end. They were one of the spreads. The Ravens wound up beating the Jets by 13, but they were only 7-3 at halftime. 13-point favorites, the Lions ended up going to overtime against the Giants. When you look at teams that have the worst teams, right, they all have a good trait to them. The Browns offense sucks, but the defense is elite. The Giants have been up double digits against the Broncos, Bears, and Lions. They're all playoff hopefuls. The Cardinals are 0-6 in one-score games. Those include the names like the Packers, the Colts, the Seahawks, the 49ers. So those three teams all combined for fewer wins than the Broncos. I mean, who saw that coming? But they're all tough outs. And speaking of the Broncos, when you look division to division, there's so many intense races. Like who put the Chiefs in a wildcard spot and they're not winning that division? If you look at the NFC race, the Bears are leading over the Lions and Packers, who we all fancied for the Super Bowl before the year. Equally, the NFC West is an absolute dogfight. Whether the Seahawks or the Rams are the favorite for the Super Bowl currently right now, one or other can only be in the number 5 seed. The NFC South has gotten tight now that the Bucs are kind of shaken. You can go division by division, whether it's the Patriots being on top, whether it's the Jags hanging around with the Colts all of a sudden. I just think it's an outrageously competitive year and one that we don't know which way it's going. And we're now at Thanksgiving. So I'm absolutely grateful for that party and not knowing where it's going.
And who knows when we are lucky enough, hopefully, touch wood, please God, if we're all still standing, to go out to Las Vegas, to go out to San Francisco for the Super Bowl. Who knows who's going to be there? Who knows who we're going to be talking about over the stretch of that week? By the way, on that, if you are a devout listener to the podcast and you are 30 minutes into this, we'd love to hear your feedback, your ideas, your thoughts for our coverage that week, it will be a bit different, but it'll obviously be very much the same as well. We'd love to hear what you'd like to hear from us, so please do let us know. I'm going to make mine short and sweet, Mark and Jason here. I'm thankful, and I've really changed my tune over this. I'm really thankful for the tush push. I'm really starting to enjoy it. And I tell you how I'm enjoying it. Because now, if you look at the stats over the last 2 to 3 years now, the stats are showing that the Eagles are starting to struggle. They've went from 80% complete or an 80% or so success rate, and it's now down towards 64. And when you see like Dan Campbell come out and say that he's a football purist and he doesn't want it to go, and he's saying, look, they've got a niche, they've found something, they're good at it, and it's for everybody else to stop. Well, do you know what? Let's keep it going. Because in week 3, the Eagles ran a tush push, and Tyler Steen, who's an offensive lineman, jumped early. There was no flag thrown. The Eagles-Packers game, the Eagles got away with a clear false start in the tush push. There was various legality issues last week in Dallas. I'm just enjoying it because I think the NFL has got a serious problem on their hands, and I think it will be banned in the off-season, and I think all hell will break loose. Either that or every other team will start to use it instead. Bookmakers must love it. Fans must hate it. Philly Eagles fans don't really care. So I'm certainly enjoying it. And we'll see how they get on Black Friday. Timestamp on the podcast. That is it for part 1 of this Week 13 podcast. We are primarily looking ahead to the Sunday games. In part 2, we're going to look ahead to the Seahawks-Vikings games. We're also going to say it's long a foil to a few teams for the year, and we're going to give our headache for the week, and we will see you on the other side. Okay, if anybody's coming tomorrow night, it is sold out. So if you're actually watching this, it's sold out. Mark might be able to get in.
Yeah, well, I might need to guess this because I was talking to my twin brother Aaron. So.
Okay, I will let them know that you need a plus.
No, we'll figure it out.
Oh, I don't know. It'll be gone. Thanks to everybody for support there. Let's go for part 2. Week 13 of the NFL season rolls on with a really, really interesting Sunday slate. This is the second part of our Week 13 podcast presented by SBK, Michael McQuaid, Mark Hogan, Jason Hayes. And we talk about SBK, some fantastic offers there over Thanksgiving and some great offers over the last few weeks. SBK got some fantastic odds going into these games on Sunday. And really, if you believe in an outsider, or if you believe especially on away teams, I really feel like the odds that are on SBK are excellent. That's not me just saying that for the crack. I genuinely mean that. No roulette. No casino, no bull, pure sportsbook odds. If you click on the link, folks, bet €10, you can get €50 free. T's and C's apply, 18 plus. Please be gamble aware. But do click on the link if you're interested. It makes a massive, massive difference to us. Mark, you came back for the second part?
Just about. I was mulling it over. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, looking at another game, obviously, this weekend. And it's kind of interesting. I don't know if we need to launch straight in, but we could potentially. Seahawks-Vikings. It was one that you actually nominated on Sunday as being a game that we could look at. But yeah, the Seahawks obviously in a really interesting place right now, putting it up there with the NFC West. And then the Minnesota Vikings really struggling considering they've been... Someone asked me around the time of the Dublin game, it's like, how would you sum this team up? And I was like, they're like a Champions League team that consistently gets to the quarterfinals. Like, you're going to see them in the playoffs, and that's
like Arsenal.
What they've turned into. And look, I'm glad that I stayed off the Vikings offense because it's Jason. Because Jason, I presume you're just going to absolutely dump down on JJ McCarthy. But it's a victory lap that I'm wanting to take. That I was like, where's the tape that says that JJ McCarthy just instantly has success in the NFL?
Now, hold on a second. Thank you for that reminder. I do this of every podcast. It's already online, but this weekend is the final week of the college football regular season, in which JJ McCarthy won a national championship with a couple of years ago. I'm not going to say myself, Darren Connell deep dive on it. Michigan, JJ McCarthy's alma mater, Ohio State, the game. It's rivalry week. There's various records about to be broken this weekend with Irish players. Lorcan Quinn among one from Donegal up Tyrone is about to break a school record. There's different guys flying it. We're talking about it on the podcast. It's online now. Darren Connell go to Miami in 5 weeks. Jason, JJ McCarthy, I feel like this is unfair. The guy won a very disputed, very asterisk now case national championship with Jim Harbaugh and Michigan. He's obviously, Harbaugh's left Michigan now as well. And the Wolverines won the national championship. And I remember sitting up dreary-eyed watching JJ McCarthy run that team to a title. He deserves to be given time. Yeah, surely.
I think every young quarterback deserves time. Unfortunately, it's just kind of unraveling before our eyes right now. Tweet of the week last week, I think, and I don't actually have the person who tweeted it to give them credit because I just remembered the tweet. The Vikings should cut JJ McCarthy and declare him a bust, then re-sign him so Kevin O'Connell can turn him into a top-tier quarterback. It just seems like he was, drafted at this certain position that people looking at his arm talent thought, okay, maybe that's reaching. He's proven to be a winner in college. But he's winning a quarterback stat. So there were those question marks going into it. So I think that's why at the first signs of struggle now, a year and a half after he was drafted, we're seeing probably a bit more intense hatred. Hatred is the wrong word, criticism than you might be used to. The whole offense is just unraveled. After that win against the Lions a few weeks ago, production just plummeted. 260 yards against the Bears, just 145 against the Packers last week. 4 yards in the second half. It is just a disaster class right now. And per True Media, it sounds truthful, JJ McCarthy now ranks 851 out of 852 measured quarterbacks in EPA.
That's the start of the year. That's the start of the year.
Do you know who the player below is, Vic?
No.
Jamarcus Russell. If you're ever being paired with Jamarcus Russell, that is not a good stat for you.
That's outrageous. That is absolutely insane.
It is. I was surprised to read it. I really was. So like we've seen performances from Nathan Peterman and all this a few years ago. I was surprised to see it was that bad. But look, he's 10 interceptions. His pass rating is 57 over these 6 games as a starter. He's only won 2 games in that span. But it's the statistics. It's the eye test, which is the troubling part as well, because there were questions over his arm talent coming out of college and what he can do in that area. But we're seeing a lot of mental lapses right now. And yeah, he's young. You got to give him time to learn. But he's struggling to process coverages. He's making very poor decisions that are leading to these interceptions. If you aren't completely physically talented compared to some other guys at your position in the league, you're going to have to at least have very strong mechanics. And people far smarter than me who understand what quarterback mechanics should look like are questioning how JJ McCarthy looks and how he's throwing the ball right now. So it is very concerning what he's putting on tape. I want to say it's not all him, the recent struggles, but it is massively it's massively down to him. He had 8 false start penalties at home last week. So is that him miscommunicating with his center, or is that on the O-line? Probably a mix of both. But again, the team isn't helping him out around him. They've tried to establish the run early in these games, and it's just the way the games are flowing. Deficits grow, you're forced into passing. The opposition can tee off and putting you under pressure. That's just not a situation you want to see a young quarterback in. We'll see if JJ McCarthy even starts this week. He has to get out of concussion protocol before O'Connell can make any decision. But is he really going to turn?
Who's the backup?
Rookie quarterback Max Brosmer. He'll play if McCarthy can't. They're away to the Seahawks this week. Not a fun atmosphere. One of the best defenses in the league. They just need to save face, run the ball, keep these young quarterbacks out of harm's way, because it could get ugly. And in all of this, I just feel for Justin Jefferson. One of the best. And in all of there is. Go on, Mike.
Sorry, I feel bad. I thought. Sorry. I will say that, just to add to your point, in all of this, in terms of you feeling bad for Justin Jefferson, at what point, and this is a question for everybody, feel free to finish off as well, Jason. At what point does the blame completely shift towards Kevin O'Connell? Because all I can see, well, Mark's going a bit of, there was an expectation that they were going to grow this year. There was an expectation they were going to get to the next level.
I grimace because the conversation last year when Sam Darnold
14 wins last year.
Yeah, but when Sam Darnold was doing well, everyone said, well, this is Kevin O'Connell because it couldn't be Sam Darnold. So look how fickle we are that because, I just think that JJ McCarthy, it is a very high-powered offense. And we're going to talk about it from, Sam Darnold in a second. But, I just think that we can't flip flop and say 1 year Kevin O'Connell has a great offense and then the next he doesn't. So I don't think I would put too much blame specifically on Kevin O'Connell. I think JJ McCarthy, like Jason is after saying there, he has some really abysmal stats that beyond win-loss record, there is quarterback stats as well. And when you're, like you said, compared to Jamarcus Russell, that is not somewhere you want to be.
And just to add to what Jason said about, Justin Jefferson, they're not in a happy place, Jason, are they? Like, you do feel sorry for him. Like.
You do. I mean, we've seen. I'm going to talk about another team that's struggling this year in a while. We've seen star players just have these frustrating spells where they can't be utilized. He's on record-breaking pace for his career. He's still top 10 in the league in yards, but that's rapidly going down with some of these performances. So, we know how wide receivers are and the attitude they have, how much they like to be used. Is this going to hurt him? This spell is definitely going to hurt him. He hasn't experienced this yet in his career.
Just to jump on, Mark, if you want to go into the offense first, feel free. But I'm happy to jump into the defense here because it's obviously a very, very interesting situation because you look at online and you look at a bit of the discourse that's happening with different, especially NFC teams, in terms of, my defense is better than yours and your defense is better than this and this and this and that. If you look at EPA per play data in terms of the Rams, the Eagles, and the Seahawks through 11 weeks of the season, Seattle is clearly the best defense in terms of statistics. But the thing that really finds interest to me is just how well they've been able to sort of jump on and to actually improve this defense time over time. And we know McDonald has come in and a bit like in Chicago, what they've been able to do in such a short period. McDonald's come in, he's put his style of play and he's put those sort of players in. But if you actually look at some of the guys that they have and have had to do over the last few weeks, like they've had they're fourth in the league in terms of sacks, and they're seventh in the league in both total defense and scoring defense. But in different games, like I'll give you an example for last week. Last week in their game, they were like a number. I think it was against the Titans, albeit yes, it was the Tennessee Titans. But there were times where the Titans were coming in and coming out of that game. Obviously, they didn't win, but they were without a number of different starters on that day. And Mike Macdonald found a way to just say to his guys, he's been doing this since week one. I don't care who's on the field. It's the guys in the roster. We will make it up. We will find a way to make it happen. And, they've had Drake Thomas stepping in for Ernest Jones. They've had Ty Okada coming in for Julian Love at certain times. He's been on IR since week 9. And last week, Patrick O'Connell came in from the practice squad with both Jones and Tyrese Knight out, who were injured. O'Connell had a sack in the game, and this defensive unit kept the Titans out of the end zone. It's the combination of the next man up strategy, and this is what takes away from that Super Bowl winning defense that the Seahawks had. This is a very, very different style of defense. These are guys that are coming in, coming out, and not just understanding the role, but they're confident with the role, and they feel part of a team no matter how many minutes they have on the field. The mad thing is, if you actually watch some of their tape and the ways in which the defense is moving and the ways in which it's moving after the snap is made, they're moving the exact same. There's no drop-offs. The trust is really, really there. And, not to say it because, we have some people that listen to this, and maybe people that listen to this are going up against us, but there are teams that are in fantasy clinching scenarios over the next few weeks. That Seahawks defense towards week 16, week 17 is lethal. But they're definitely going to be an interesting prospect when the NFL playoffs start. Hypothetically, if the Seahawks were to play the Niners in the NFC playoffs, I think this defense would decimate the Niners already going into it, which is a big statement to make. I understand that. But in terms of what Jason said about the issues that the Vikings have had, if you're looking at Max Brosmer coming in, could be a long day for Max. Just going to put it out there and say it. A few flea flickers, I'd say, in progress. I mean, is there anything to go on in this offense as well? I think we sort of know how good they are. And the thing that's so impressive, Mark, is just how good Jackson Smith-Njigba is for a start. I love watching them, man. I'd love to have them on any team.
Well, you team me up beautifully there because I feel like we've all said that the Seahawks are home and hose not only in this game but through the rest of the season. They're like class at the moment, obviously, but it is the Jackson Smith and Jigba. I'm going to call it a question because that's how I want to frame it. Going forward, he has an outrageous, I suppose, the offense has an outrageous reliance on him, and I'm so glad I remember that word because I kind of was going through my head, what do I want to talk about here? And someone had said on social media about Christian McCaffrey is in there for MVP because of how the 49ers are using him. Now his yards per carry are like way down there, but like everything is going through Christian McCaffrey for the 49ers. But when you look at Seattle, it's mad to think that Jackson Smith and Jigba has now done more in 11 games in terms of receiving yards than the likes of your Steve Largents, your Doug Baldwins, your Tyler Lockett's, who've been playing 16 games for the Seahawks for most of their careers. That Jackson Smith and Jigba, obviously, if you missed it, 1,313 yards through 11 games is the record for the Seahawks in terms of receiving yards. And on an absolute heater, like you said, he's class to watch, Michael. He just can do so much. And it's just so weird to see a guy of his body type doing it. They have played an elite defense in the Texans, so I'm not going to give the Vikings any more credit than you would them and say that they're going to completely take him out of the game. But I do want to pose this question: what if they took a player out of the game? And maybe it doesn't just apply to the Vikings, who I suppose Brian Flores can try and sell out and just take him out of the game. I think it's going to be going forward. That's what teams are going to have to do to Jackson Smith and Jigba, because 107 targets this year out of a team total 286. That 107 is 3 fewer than the 3 guys behind Jackson Smith and Jigba in terms of total receptions for this team: Cooper Kupp, AJ Barner, and the second round tight end Elijah Arroyo. That is an outrageous level of reliance on Jackson Smith and Jigba. So I actually just look back to the last 5 games that the Vikings have played to see what the number 1 wide receiver did against them. Christian Watson for the Packers, 49 yards. Cole Kmet, 45 yards. Zay Flowers, 75 yards. Amon-Ra St. Brown had 91, and Ladd McConkey had 88. So those are obviously good numbers, but they're not anywhere close to the numbers that Jackson Smith and Jigba has been putting up. Once in 11 games, he's put up less than 93 yards. So like he is nailed on. Home and Hose was about to say, he's getting over 100 yards consistently, if not 120, 130 yards per game. So posing that question, what if the team had to rely on someone else? I don't think we're going to see it this weekend. I would love if it was, but he's just such a cheat code there. It's outrageous. Like they went and got Raheed Shaheed at the trade deadline. He's had 3 catches on 8 targets. It's not there yet. The Vikings, if they played an absolutely flawless day and the pass rush was getting home fast to Sam Darnold, might be able to cause some problems. I don't really think it's happening because they've been too hit or miss this year that you're going to be able to rely on that. But it's definitely something that I'm paying attention to going forward. Is it just a one-man offense that teams are going to just start double, triple covering JSN?
Interesting, and I have no doubt that we'll talk about Seattle down through the next stretch. We've literally got a month left of the season. Week 18 is the first week in January, and then we go straight in December. Just to make people aware of how it works, one of the weeks, there is a week on Sunday the 21st. There are some games on the Thursday, but like Thanksgiving and Christmas Day, and then another week that weekend, and then it goes through and forward. So I think what we might do is we'll probably go early that week and let people have the time off, probably just go audio only, so Mark Hogan can eat his turkey dinner. And then we'll probably basically what happens is, folks, and I know we've actually have a few people that double dip on the college podcast. The college football playoffs really kick into gear around New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, 2nd and 3rd of January, the semi-finals before the final. And what we'll do is we'll have it early that week going into it. So we'll try and make it as time relevant as we can, as always. But there will be some teams that we will not talk about. And we are now having the wake for them right now. And I'm going to keep mine very short. And I'm going to keep mine very, very sweet here. The New York Football Giants released Jude McAtomney this week. And I'd like to wish Jude the very, very best. I'd like to thank Brian Daboll for making the last month of my life absolutely insane. But it's all good. Jude, was chatting to Jude. He's very much looking to sign somewhere else. So we wish him the very, very best of luck this weekend. In terms of the Giants, for a few weeks they were so exciting. Jackson Dart, Cam Scatterbo, box office stuff. Really enjoyed it. I would ask serious questions as to could they make it work again next year? Can Cam Scadabo continue to run through people? I'm sure he can.
Michael,
but
it's Scadabo. Michael, it's Scadabo. It's Scadabo. Sorry, I was gonna let you get away with it once, but not twice. It's Scadabo. The guy's like going mad on his. Do you ever see his? Sorry to interrupt, but like, have you seen what he's a streamer or whatever now? He's like Angry Change, my favorite on I'm a Celebrity. But he's always like, chat, get at me, chat. He's so funny on streaming. He's the one streamer I'd watch is Cam Scadabo. He's going to be a huge star. Huge.
He is, but that's a big injury to come back from in his position. It is. He's not the tallest guy. I'm just saying, just give it a bit of time. I think it'll, like, look, take this soundbite and show it to me week 1 at 9 o'clock in 2026. But I think it might take a bit more time. You have to remember, it's quite clear that there's going to be a lot of movement and a lot of change, more so than there is right now in that organization over the next few weeks and months. They've clearly got the future, they believe, in terms of the quarterback, the running back. Very, very fun duo to watch. I watched a bit of Jackson Dart in college, watched a lot of Cam towards the end of last season for the Sun Devils, especially towards the end of the season. Frankly, I thought they might have got to the national championship at one point. They were that good. He was that fun to watch. Seems like a great guy. But for me now, it is the end of the Giants. And I just like to thank all the Giants fans who have given us Super Bowl level interaction levels over the last month on social media. We really appreciate it. And I'm sure whenever we land, I'm going to JFK at the end of January. I'm sure whenever I land at JFK, all the ICE agents with the Giants fans will be ready for me, because apparently, even though I've got a visa, I'm not welcome in the country. So big thanks again to all the Giants fans. For all the Irish Giants fans, thank you so much. We love you so much. And I'm presuming, Mark, you're going to wish Charlie Smith the best this weekend. Timestamp hope and hope. But you want to talk about the Saints? No, I have no idea.
Maybe Charlie's best wish is coming. But no, I actually, funnily enough, took the Browns. And I mean, can we avoid the
hold on a second here? Browns are back, baby. Shadur Sanders is in. Shadur's looking like prime.
Yeah, well,
I see.
I don't
They're
see
not going anywhere.
Well,
there's 6 weeks left.
Yeah, do you know? Yeah, you're right, and I don't mean that sarcastically at all. But I will give my spiel first, and then see if I can wrap back around and see. Maybe I need to look at their schedule in a second. But the one objective for the Browns, obviously, this year was to look at quarterback. Started with Joe Flacco, moved to Dylan Gabriel, covered it on Virgin Media when he went to London, and it looked like the tight ends and Quinton Judkins running was going to bail him out. Since then, the offense became so predictable. It was just run. So much so 2 weeks ago against the Ravens, and there's a reason I'm talking about this game. They came out and did a 3-and-out, but then afterwards they came back and a 13-yard run, a 7-yard run, a 12-yard run. Gabriel has an incompletion, a 19-yard run, a 2-yard run, a 1-yard run. Now we have 3rd and 7. They have to throw the ball. They pick up a yard and they end up going for a field goal. It was so predictable and so shallow that I was like, well, what can we learn about a quarterback in this system? Obviously, Dylan Gabriel goes out of the game. We have to go to Shadur Sanders. He had an awful first outing, 4 for 16, 47 yards, an interception, a fumble, 2 sacks. I was ready to write him off right there, Michael. So I will give you that there was maybe some signs, if you look to the box score, of improvement. But I don't know if it was completely... that's completely true, because the box score can be a complete lie. Going into the game, our betting partner, Always Bet Responsibly, SBK, put his over-under total passing yards at 163. That expectation puts him just above the likes of Justin Fields and Jackson Dart, who we know their legs bailed them out of anything. It's just a much more run-focused game. Based on last week, obviously, he would have been able, or he did get over, I think he had 210 yards. 66 of that came on a screen pass, with Sampson able to run and get the touchdown. So I know you can't remove it, but just say you were to remove that does put him under that under. And it's like, I hated when they score that touchdown, Jason. It cuts to Deion Sanders in the box as though his son is after throwing an absolute dime. It's like, it's a screen pass.
You know why he's doing that. Now, hold on. If we had Conor Ladar on here,
it's still an extremely shallow offense. And look, I know what you're saying. It's like, he did things in college.
This guy was a god in college. He
was a god in college, and the Buffs, Colorado Buffaloes, like were able to become a household name, but it's Dion. This was the whole. I was thinking of our conversation in J.R. Mahon's, Michael, in the week 1 preview or whatever it was, the live show, and the woman who stumbled into our podcast and did not like it. We were talking, Jason, about Shedeur Sanders and said it like, how would you like if they talked to your son? And sorry, I'm not laughing at the lady, but we absolutely were called out for talking about that, and we kind of said, well, Deion Sanders was the biggest mouthpiece in the NFL. So, like, I mean, he tortured some people's mental stability. So, let alone if his son's getting it now. But it was the circus came into town. We all knew that when it came to Cleveland. When you look forward to this game again, looking again at that SBK stat of the over-under, they put him down to 160 yards right now. They don't expect this offense to just explode again against one of the worst passing defenses in the NFL. I don't know. I was going to say that maybe by the end of November, they figured out that question that I first started with. This year was all about figuring out what you had at quarterback. There has been talk going into last week's game, at least, of Deshaun Watson potentially returning this week. If the Browns were to be featured again, it's definitely because, like I said in part 1, their defense is such a tough out that maybe they could cause a problem, but it completely hinges on Shedeur Sanders being a very competent quarterback and this offense suddenly looking 10, 20 yards down the field. We don't see anywhere close to that. I don't think that's outrageous quarterback play versus like one of the posts, and sorry to harp on about this, but I saw on social media was, ESPN are complete rage baiting at the moment saying, was Shedeur picked way too low in the draft? Like, should any of these quarterbacks been taken ahead of him? You're after saying there, Jackson Dart is obviously what New York is hoping for now. But Cam Ward, just because Cam Ward is in an awful situation doesn't mean he isn't making outrageous throws and hasn't been really fun to watch. Cam Ward is still the best quarterback to come from this draft. He's just gone about
Shedeur
it very quiet way.
Shedeur was disrespected in the draft.
Oh, 100%. He was, but that doesn't mean that he's a better quarterback based on one game against the Las Vegas Raiders, who have been leaky on defense.
I just pray to God that Jason's not going to talk. Like, when I die, whatever I open my eyes to after, if there is something else, right, will not be as bad as the last 10 minutes of that Jaguars-Cardinals game last week. So I'm praying to God that Jason is not wrapping up this podcast by saying goodnight to Jonathan Gannon. And I have put Jason on auto tweet, and I really enjoyed last week's comments, I have to be honest.
No, well, that would be counterproductive to say I'm not going to talk about the Cardinals anymore because I'm going to try work them into a conversation.
Exactly, that's the way they're coming up.
No, my team is a bit easier to choose because it's they were on the receiving end of the Shedeur show last week. The Raiders obviously lost to the Browns. We talked about maybe doing this topic last week, so I was kind of thinking about the Raiders before that, and to have them lose to the Browns made this a bit easier again, I suppose. I think going back to preseason, and a lot of groupthink goes on in the NFL amongst the media, and there are a lot of kind of consensus picks about teams to watch. The Patriots were mentioned quite frequently, and that's turned out to be justified. Broncos, they were talked about, and they followed up on it. Colts, some people maybe less, but still a few people tipped the Colts, and they've really showed up this year. A lot of people were mentioning the Raiders as well before this season, and some of the moves that they made, feeling optimistic about it. Pete Carroll was back. If he's coming back for a return, he's not going to be hanging around for much longer. So you're expecting instant impact when a guy like him is coming back. Chip Kelly was brought in, highest paid offensive coordinator in the league. Tom Brady was becoming more of a presence in the ownership area. This team was getting hyped up a lot. And in week 1, they actually beat the Patriots, which is hilarious in hindsight because their seasons have just gone complete opposite direction since that. Some massive blowout losses, terrible loss to the Cowboys recently at home. Obviously lost to the Browns last week. Geno Smith, the guy we all loved, seems like he's written back this year, finally. He's looking like the Geno Smith of old, which maybe that's unfair to him because the team around him doesn't look great either. Chip Kelly's now gone. Speaking of star players who are kind of wasted on with certain organizations, looking at Max Crosby now with the Raiders. he was linked to some trade moves before the deadline, and I think he'll be wishing that maybe he was moved with how the season has gone. It's disheartening when you kind of make these win now moves, sign the guys they did in free agency, make the trades that they did, make the coaching acquisitions that they did. They were very much win now moves that the Raiders made last offseason. We saw the Commanders pull it off briefly a year ago, where they signed a whole host of aging free agents and managed to have some success. It just didn't work this year for the Raiders. They haven't won a playoff game now since they lost the Super Bowl in 2002. It's a long time, and the outlook for Raiders fans is bleak. It's like this new era has just started, and it couldn't have started on a worse foot, and it just feels like they have to blow it up again straight away. So I do feel for Raiders fans. It's also interesting, just speaking more broadly about it, I suppose. Some teams have managed to turn it around this year after struggles last year, like the Patriots. The Bears are looking pretty good. But looking at some of these teams that are on track to be picking for that number one overall slot, or at least top 10 slots, it's just some of these guys are the same teams year in, year out. Titans, Giants, Joe Schoen kept on as GM there, clearly a buddy of the owner. Saints, Raiders, they've got Mark Davis as owner. Jets have Woody Johnson. Browns have Jimmy Haslam. I think just the commonality amongst all these franchises who we're talking about year in, year out as being having to rebuild and chasing the number one overall pick, it all starts from ownership, doesn't it? You could throw the Cardinals into that list. When the ownership is maybe dysfunctional or unreliable, not level-headed, you just see the franchises consistently make bad decisions. So it's all, people always talk about GMs and coaches, but we're seeing what like Robert Kraft has done with his hires. Jeffrey Lurie and Eagles in Philadelphia, consistently hiring the right guys in positions high up in those organizations. It's just such an ownership problem. I don't think people talk about owners enough and the impact they have in the team, because if the head of your organization has flaws, then it's going to trickle down.
But sure, look at the Broncos. They're a great example of that. When the Broncos got sold, 4 or 5 years ago, they had the money to pony up to get Sean Payton in. Okay, we got, and even to pay massive money to Russell Wilson. Like, goes to show when you actually have, and they talk about that. Sorry, this is a complete off-season podcast, but it's such a great point that you make, Jason. It's like having actual cash in your bank account means you can put money into these bank accounts of your players or your staff straight away, where some other owners that don't have the money straight away, you can't lower. That's sometimes a deciding factor when it's when it's like, oh, well, they go to this team or this team. Like, it's literally to do with liquidity, and it's a complete business side of the NFL.
And the Penner family have shown that by building a new training facility. They're looking to build a new stadium, and certainly something to talk about. Mark and Jason's off-season weekly podcast starts on the 15th of February, so really excited for that. Audio only, I believe.
You're dead right.
Yeah, I'm excited. Somebody here.
Wait, what date does it start?
15th.
The 15th. So I'm getting married on the 12th of February, so I'll make sure that my wife knows that I have 3 days for her.
Good.
It's like when we did Jason's wedding, and we're like, Becky, can we have Jason in the morning after his wedding just in the lobby and do a podcast?
We really should have done that for the crack. Yeah. Somebody here needs to go to the combine and I can't go, so that's a conversation to have off air. Headache to finish off here. I'm going to make it short and sweet again here. Broncos Commanders Sunday night. Marvin Mims gets his second receiving touchdown of the season, because frankly this game will be over after the first quarter, and the secondary players will be coming out. Mark, give us a quick one to finish off.
If you're playing this next player in fantasy, good night and God bless. You're not making your playoffs. Charlie Smith.
Kobe Brissett.
Charlie Smith, I said. I thought you'd get more excited. Charlie Smith. No, I mean, in all seriousness, though, what's going on with the Saints kicking is the headache. If it's irritating me, I can only imagine what it's like.
I can tell you what's going on.
Yeah.
They're in a battle on Thursday, and the winner gets...
Yeah, right. So, I didn't want to timestamp this. So, again, hopefully by, Friday, Saturday, we still don't know the answer. I mean, not hopefully that he has. But it is a question of, if not now, when. He's been waiting in the wings. All these positive comments all along. Thank you to Michael Preston, our guy, who was able to ask Kellen Moore there after the game on the weekend, what's the story with Charlie, because he has been there, and Kellen Moore pointed to we're going to take a chance, and now he's in a kicking battle with Cade York. To sum up, hopefully we have a third Irishman in just a matter of years debuting in the NFL. But again, if not now, when? Mm-hmm.
Will Munster ever have a...
What have you done, Jason, down there?
Working on it, biding our time.
Who's your headache, lad?
Headache. I kind of touched on it earlier, but I like Khalil Shakir for the Bills this week. Big game last week against the Texans, 110 yards. Steelers have been suspect at bringing receivers down after the catch. Shakir excels in that area. I think he's going to be a key part of the game plan for the Bills this week against Pittsburgh.
Interesting. Okay, well, Mark has to go and watch I'm a Celebrity, get me out of here. So for now, we want to wish everybody a very, very happy Thanksgiving. We want to thank everybody for the support. We really, really do appreciate, folks, and thank yous for that. Hard to believe when we're back here again. It's week 14. We're getting into the final full month of the regular season, and we're going all the way to San Francisco on this podcast again. To check out SBK's link in the bio. You can check out Jeff's picks for across different weeks, and obviously the guys' final week of the regular season. There is a podcast next week looking ahead to the conference games in college football before the lads take a bye week and we get into the CFB playoff. But for now, from all of us on Pro Football Ireland, we will chat to you soon. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great weekend, and happy Georgian Day to all the Armagh people out there. You have a great day.